I want to share 7 things that may help you build up speed in your guitar solos. Now, quick disclaimer here, even though we're shredding in this video, you and I together, it's not all about speed all the time. We'll talk more about that at the end. In fact, the 7th tip that I share with you is really going to resonate. I feel like it's going to resonate with you and make sense. But let's get into this. One thing I do want to point out before we start, though, is I'm not plugged into anything. This is not a clear recording as far as the sound goes. I am plugged into my amplifier here, so you're just hearing this in the room. And the reason I'm doing this is not because I'm lazy. You know, most of my videos I'm recording it and syncing audio, video, and all that stuff. But the reason I'm doing it this way is because I want you to hear just the rawness of, you know, what it's going to be sounding like when you practice. Okay, you and I, we're sitting in the room together right now. We're practicing, we're going through some things. So I just want to make this kind of as raw as it possibly can so that it's real. Alternate picking. This is actually one of my favorite techniques of all time when it comes to both rhythm and playing leads. But alternate picking, that definitely to me defines shred guitar, playing fast guitar solos. And it's simply because you can play faster by picking back and forth, right? Upstroke, downstroke, and, you know, repeat that, than you can just playing the downstrokes. One thing I'll mention here, and you may know this already, but when I started playing guitar, which was way back in 1989, it was weird. That first year, I never practiced alternate picking. I only played downstrokes when I was playing guitar solos. So when I started learning to alternate pick, I'm like, it was just like really foreign to me, and I had a tough time with it. So because I liked it so much and I liked the result and how that sounded in guitar solos, I just really went all in on alternate picking, and that's just all I started practicing after a while, of course with the downstrokes too. But in any case, what I would start out with for alternate picking to get better at it, just start out with like 3 simple notes. So let's play G string 12, 11, and 9. So we're going to just hang on the one note for a little while before we change notes. You don't have to worry about going ultra fast at first. If you want to set a metronome, I'll probably say this throughout the video several times. Set a metronome or a drum track. To be honest with you, I don't, but that's because I'm typically not practicing these. I am typically playing along with backing tracks. You know, I'm constantly like writing music, if not my own, for my courses or for YouTube or for social media or whatever. So I'm constantly writing rhythm tracks. So I always have that to play along with. So even better, play along with the rhythm track. Find a rhythm track that's in the key of E minor. These notes would work, you know. And I would just keep practicing that over and over. And of course, when you get tired of hearing those 3 notes, because you will, you might already be tired of it. I kind of am. And then switch it up a little bit. Choose 3 more notes, right? Practice that just 1 note at a time, and then you'll get better at it. You'll ultimately get faster at that. Now we start expanding, not just playing the 1 note at a time with alternate picking, but we expand out and start adding notes. Well, a little trick is play in 3s. Okay, you'll hear 3s again throughout this this video here, but play in 3s, meaning 3 notes at a time. That's kind of what I did there, and it's kind of what you'll hear me and really a lot of guitar players as they're alternate picking and speed picking, I guess, right? Is we're playing 3 notes at one time. A lot of times, not all the time, but it's a good way to get really fast. Well, really fast. So try something like this. Let's just I like how the lower notes sound when you're playing alternate picking. And of course, I'll show you another little trick here. Not really a trick, but I am using my neck pickup, by the way. Whenever I'm doing like like really fast playing, a lot of times, not all the time, but I've got my neck pickup selected. It just gives you, I don't know, it just gives you a bit more clarity in my opinion. So that's very helpful too, at least for me. So what I would start is just play in threes. Like let's start on the E string, 12, 14, 15. Okay, let's just get that down. Okay, move over to the A string, same thing. Okay, and then if you want to move up, let's just go up further. Let's go over to the G string and let's go 16, 17, and 19, okay? Okay, and then move a string over to the G string, same thing. Okay, do that over and over. And again, you don't have to try to go blazing fast, because what'll happen if you try to go too fast before you've got it down, it's just going to sound really muddy, okay? This is a really cool way to get fast really fast. And it is almost like the perception of being fast. And it's so simple. It's just repeating a series of notes. You know, we talked earlier about going to freeze. We start out with just, alternate picking the one note. Now let's alternate pick multiple notes in threes. That kind of makes sense, right? Because it's just easy. 1, 2, 3, your alternate pick, then go to the next series of notes, right? So in this case, instead of going over to the next series of notes after the threes, and you probably heard me do a lot of this, in the prior tip there, is to repeat some of those notes. So for example, we started here, G string, we're on frets 17, 16, and 14, right? And we'll go over to the next string and do the same thing. So instead of this though, how we can really build up speed is repeat that. Why this makes things a little easier is, well, simply because you get to stay in one place a little bit longer before hopping over to the next string. Sometimes you can be playing fast on one string and like, man, now it's time to go to the next string and play something fast there too. It can get a bit jumbled. And I don't want to say this is like a cheat code, but it's almost like a cheat code. It's pretty cool. So repeat that pattern, repeat that series of notes really as many times as you want, but I would say at least twice, and then go to another place, whether it's another part of the fretboard with the same string or another string over like we just did, and just repeat that series of notes as well. And I think when I played this little intro, because I'm making all this stuff up on the fly, by the way, just so you know, but when I started this little segment here, right, I think that's what I did. So it was like... yeah, that was it. So yeah, again, we're on the G string here, frets 17, 16, 14, twice, times 2. Hey, it's a 2-for-1 special. And then do the same thing on the D string, right? You play that twice, play that series of notes twice, and then we went over to the A string. I think we played 17, 15, and 14, right? So yeah, just double down on that series of notes, and that will help you get fast and pretty smooth. Sweep picking is definitely part of shred guitar. Definitely can't leave that out. Now, I will be the first to admit that is not my strength as a lead guitar player. I am working on this, and I've been playing guitar for decades, since 1989. This is just one of those techniques. It has never come easy for me. I will say that, though. I will say that I do believe some things come easier for some people than others. Now, don't let that discourage you. That might sound like, well, Jason, you're just making excuses. No, I actually do practice this technique probably now more than ever, and I am getting better at it. However, I find that if I take a break from playing sweep arpeggios, I get rusty really, really fast. Whereas other techniques such as the alternate picking and tapping and legato picking and all that, I don't tend to ever really lose that, but this particular technique I do. I think that the brain is triggered just a little differently when it comes to this technique because it's more of a fluid motion. And we're not going to get deep into sweep picking here. There are so many videos on that, and people that are better at it can probably explain it a lot better than I can. But a couple of notable guys out there that can do this technique really well, and I'll give you some tips here, by the way. But Alfred Potter, a friend of mine, he is great at the technique, and of course, obviously, you guys see Bernth's channel. He's pretty phenomenal at that, and several others out there. I could keep naming names, but in any case, what I am doing, and it seems to be working, helping me get a little bit better, is just by starting out with just simple 3-note patterns, right? Or 3-string patterns, rather. So let's take the G, B, E strings here, and let's just do the typical sweep pattern here. The 12-13 with a little hammer-on pull-off. So I would practice that position, and I would also practice the other position, which will go 11, 12, 10, and the hammer-on pull-off. That hammer-on pull-off would be on the 14th fret, so, okay. So again, last 3 strings here, 12, 13, 12, the hammer-on pull-off between 12 and 15, right? And then the other position is 11, 12, 10, hammer-on pull-off between 10 and 14. So again, just go through those slow. Make sure that you're not picking each note. You don't want to do this. Right? You want the fluid motion. And I would just practice that over and over, maybe set a metronome or a drum program, a drum machine or something. I like playing with that better than a click track, right? Because it just sounds cooler. But I would just slow things down, practice that. Don't go ultra slow on it, right? I mean, because then you'll end up picking the notes. You don't want to do that. You want to let the hand fall, kind of glide down and glide back up. It's a very fluid motion. So that's all I have for you on that technique, but definitely just those 2 positions, practice those, get faster, and then start expanding and, of course, add more notes as you get better. Hammer-ons, pull-offs, or legato picking, they kind of all intertwine, but it's basically a great technique for playing fast guitar solos for shred, right? And it's actually a little less effort, especially if you have a super high gain amp, because those notes are going to resonate without a lot of effort, right? Whereas if you're picking the notes, I mean, you're having to put effort into that. When you're doing the sweep arpeggios, you're having to put effort into that. But this, I mean, it's basically just picking one note and letting everything else kind of fly, right? Okay, so now you might pick another note throughout, but it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like you're just picking where you feel you need to sort of keep the train moving forward, right? And, you know, of course, hammer-ons and pull-offs, that sort of falls into that category as well, because you're not picking any notes, right? And you can sort of follow suit, you know, with the same strategy. Again, it's just less picking, a lot less picking. And one thing I'll give you to practice here is, and by the way, for me at least, the legato and the hammer-ons and pull-offs tend to work best, or to me sound best, on the lower notes, right? Kind of this section of the fretboard. I mean, you can do it down here as well, right? That didn't sound very good to me, and it was just kind of hard for me to play that without picking anything, whereas if I do this, okay, I picked all those notes, but I tend to have a harder time with the legato down here. Okay, well that sounded okay, but in any case, to my own point, it just seems to work better here. There's no right or wrong way, by the way. I mean, play that, use that strategy wherever you want. But I would practice something like this right here, with a bend especially, right? Okay, and all we're doing here is kind of hard to play that like super slow, but I'm just bending the B string, 10th fret, bending it up, and then I'll use my pinky finger to go up to the 12th fret. But keep in mind, I didn't pick anything else after that bend, right? And then I just mess around here with some hammer-ons and pull-offs with frets 7, 8, and 10, right? So and you can just kind of venture off. Now, one thing I do, and I actually share this in my lead course here, is you do pick up some string noise, or you can pick up some string noise with this technique, because again, you're not picking any notes. So as you're doing all this stuff up here, you probably heard some string noise, right? But if you do this, and I do this sometimes, not all the time, but I'll take my thumb, I'll tuck my pickup under my middle finger there, and I'll take my thumb and my pointer, and I will actually mute the surrounding strings, right? So that the string that I'm doing the legato or hammer-ons, pull-offs, or whatever, so that helps prevent string noise. And sometimes I'll use this hand too, right? I'll use this finger. Just kind of depends. It's something that you just have to get used to. So what I would do is, again, pick a note. Something simple like that to start with, okay? I know I played something earlier and that was probably a little jumbled there, but just, I'm bending that 10th fret up. Then just doing a little hammer-on pull-off, right? Between 8 and 10, okay, pull off, and I'll go to the 7th fret. Or just play one note. Okay, and just mess around with that, and then you can start incorporating other notes, other strings, and so forth. Palm muting. Now you may think palm muting is reserved for the chunky metal rhythms, right? But use it on your guitar solos. Now this is something I probably should have mentioned earlier when we started talking about alternate picking in the beginning, especially when we started getting into using multiple notes, multiple strings, and also of course repeating some of those patterns, right, to build up speed. A lot of what you heard me do in that was palm muting some of those notes. Now I may not palm mute all of the notes, but to me it's almost a way to kind of tighten things up along the way, if that makes sense. It's sort of, I don't know, for me it sort of helps me kind of stay on track, right? Palm muting just helps keep things tighter. So in the case where I started out here, now let me mention this real quick, because when you heard me play this little thing here, I am actually using my bridge pickup here. Now there's no right or wrong, okay? Use whatever pickup you want. I'm just showing you what I do because I like the sound that I'm getting out of that. That sounded really cool. It just sounded like it had an edge to it, right? So I use that for that part of it, and I like playing around with that. It's almost like a rhythmic style, but it also helps you play faster, right? When I go, probably I'd say when I'm playing on the E and A string, or E or A string, and when I get past like the 12th fret, when I'm in this section here and I'm speed picking, then I'll switch my pickup to my neck pickup, because that just, I don't know, that just helps prevent a lot of noise and helps keep things tighter, as we explained earlier. But I'll palm mute with that as well a lot of times. What happens is a lot of times I'll pull off the palm mute as I play the G, the B, and E strings, right? So it might be something like this. Okay, so I started out palm muting the low notes here, but as I got to the higher notes and the higher strings, I pulled the palm off because I kind of wanted those notes to ring out and just sound better. But when I get to that other region with the bigger strings there, right, the E, A, and sometimes the D string, just depends on what I want at that time, right? And that's the other thing you have to do, is just discern as you play, discern what you want that to sound like, right? And then make it sound like you want it to sound. Just keep messing around with that. There's no right or wrong answers here, so I want you to know that first and foremost. But I just think the palm muted strings on those bigger strings, the palm muted notes on the bigger strings, just sound a little bit better. So going back to some of the exercises that we went over in the alternate picking, especially when we got to playing multiple notes and multiple strings and repeating the patterns, like this thing here, you know. And then if you want to move up from there and go, you know, same strings, go like 14, 15, 17 times 2 on both. And then just carry on down. See how I let off the palm when we got to the G string though? I sort of palm muted the D string. Okay, just play around with that, and then you can go back to, I don't know, the bridge pickup here and just practice something like this. Pick any string you want, and you don't have to do that picking pattern. Just do something like... You know, go back to the very first exercise when we were alternate picking, just hanging on the one note. We'll try palm muting that as well. One of the best ways to really build up speed, or at least give the perception that you're playing fast, or maybe a better way to word this is to, when you do play fast, that it really captivates people. It just grabs their attention, and that is to let the song breathe, let the guitar solo breathe. And what that means is to mix some melodies in with your shred. In other words, you don't have to be just like an onslaught of shred all the way through the guitar solo. Look, if you're playing a song and that's what it calls for, and I know, you know, we're heavy metal heads here, right? So a lot of times, well, that's just what it is. But you go back to just some of the classic guitar solos in heavy metal music. I mean, let's just go to the all classic Master of Puppets. There's a really melodic part when the song slows down. But even when you've got just pure metal going on, a lot of times in music, the guitar solos that we really remember are the melodies that we hear. And I'm not saying ditch the fast stuff and just play melodic all the time. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying mix the two together so that when you do play the fast stuff, it's like, whoa, okay, that caught my attention. As opposed if the entire solo is just an onslaught of just a lot of notes, like, let me throw a bunch of notes on you, right? And look, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with if that's what you want to do it by all means. I'm just saying, when you back off a little, let the song breathe, then you come in with some fast stuff, it's going to be like, whoa, what just happened? Somebody just ate my lunch, you know? So that to me is a great strategy and tactic to use for building up speed, is learning when to come in with those fast notes, with that fast stuff, right? But then also knowing kind of when to pull back. And that's only something you know, right? It's not something I can teach or tell you, because it really is a to each their own. And you know, I got some noise here. Let me turn this down. The one thing I encourage you to do, and you already know this, is to work on developing your own style. Not that guitar player over there, or that person over there. Just because you see or hear someone play a certain way, you might admire that, and that's great. I admire a lot of guitar players, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to mimic that. I mean, you can take bits and pieces from, you know, guitar players. Hopefully you took some bits and pieces from this video, and I appreciate that. But I want you to always, in the back of your head, be focusing on developing your own style as you learn things. Even as you learn things in this video, I hope that you practice some of this stuff, and I hope that it helps you more than anything. But I really want it to be something that's like, okay, you know what? I took this from Jason's video, but I want to add my own flavor to it. I'm going to add something different. I'm going to play it my own way. Please do that, okay? Please do that. That's what I encourage you to do, because you have your own unique style within you. And if you haven't started developing that yet, just keep that in your head, right? Keep that in there, because that's going to come out. And the more you think about that and dwell on that, it's like, okay, I've got this technique down. Let me add my own flavor to it and just build upon that. On that note, no pun intended. Well, the pun's always intended with me, but I am launching a new melodic soloing course on the Jason Stallworth Guitar Academy. So if you're a member of my Guitar Academy, you're about to get the course dropped in there, and I'll let you know when it's out there. If you're not a member of my Guitar Academy, there's a link in the description of this video here. If you've been watching my channel for a while, I recently just put everything into one convenient platform. All of my courses, you'll get access to my courses: Metal Guitar Apprentice, Metal Riff Master, of course the new lead course when it drops at the end of January. You'll also get access to my monthly lessons and the materials that I provide that you can download. I've got tabs and backing tracks, multiple backing tracks. I always give you the backing track with a full mix, but also one without the core lesson, right? So you can play along with it, and of course, create your own rhythms and leads to that track as well. So those are fun to play along with. But you get access to all that stuff. So yeah, click the link in the description of this video. Check out the Jason Stallworth Guitar Academy if you're not part of that. Again, if you are, this course will be in there. It'll be in there before the end of the month, before the end of January, and I will notify you when that happens as well. Of course, I'll make announcements on YouTube and all. But guys, I hope this lesson helped you. Again, I can't stress this enough. Whether you join my academy or never watch a video of mine again, please focus on building and developing your own style of soloing. That's going to be the best style for you, okay? So guys, as always, keep it metal and keep playing music.